Hi guys. So yesterday I did a video about the black horse of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and I didn't feel like I had time to do it justice because I only had a few minutes before I had to go to work, and even now I don't have a lot of time because the little one's sleeping, so I honestly don't have a lot of time to invest in in-depth um, details, but I wanted to expand on yesterday's video. So, again, it was about the black horse that you see in Revelation 6, 5, and 6. And this is John's revelation, and he says, "So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand." So the black horse represents famine. And even in the color black, related to famine is because there is death and mourning. People wear black when they're in mourning. And so the people have ill health, they're dying due to famine. Even the expressions in their deep set eyes is dark due to their emaciation, their emaciated bodies. So that is what the black symbolizes. And then in verse 5, when you see the rider holding the scales for the purpose of measuring grain, that grain will sell at a greatly hyper inflated price. So in my video, I related this to the famine going on in Yemen right now, which is being called the world's greatest humanitarian crisis. Potentially 14 million people are at risk of dying from famine, and 85,000 children already have died. And it's not because there's not food in the country. It's not because they're in some isolated place where there's no food. It's middle class families who, because of the war, the inflation has caused food prices to go up so high that they can't go into the grocery store they live next door to and buy food. And so famine is the logical consequence of the war, any war, but the war in Yemen. Famine is just a consequence of war because of the inflation. And some of these people in Yemen, besides not having money for food, it's not that there's no access to medical care. There might be a hospital, a ways away, but they don't have any money for a taxi ride to the hospital. So we continue reading, and you see at the end of verse 6 that the voice says, and from commentaries, it's the Lord's voice. And even in verse 5, you see he, capitalized H, he is the one opening the seals. He says, "Do not harm the oil and wine." Now, a lot of commentaries say that the oil and wine will still be abundant. So there will still be people who are prospering. And I've even read some articles about, reporters and different people in the area in Yemen right now. They'll walk into a restaurant, have a great meal, and walk out, and there's starvation on the street. And it's a tough thing. You can give them the money in your pocket, but I left a link in my last video to save the children if you do want to help in Yemen. But there are people that are still wealthy and rich, and the rich are getting richer with the oil and wine, and they're making money off the inflated grain prices. So the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. There's scarcity in the midst of prosperity. And businessmen don't have any problems about taking advantage of such a situation as long as they're guaranteed to make a profit. So during these times, some will hardly suffer, and they'll feel little impact, while other areas are sorely impacted and hit hard. So this has really been weighing heavily on my heart. And again, I didn't feel like I did the issue justice yesterday on my video. I just left a bunch of links. But we can pray. We can pray for the situation. Pray that fighting will stop so that supplies can get in. Yeah,